Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning bilingual sexuality podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. As a female host in a male-dominated industry, I'm thrilled to announce that Please Me is the #1 ranked sexuality podcast in the USA and worldwide, covering topics on sexual health, intimacy, and sexual empowerment. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sex education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Today I'm taking you on a journey into kink, ritual, and sensuality with Luna Rose, a sensual ritualist, kink guide, and herbalist who weaves together pleasure, plants, and play into a unique and artistic expression of intimacy. This episode explores erotic ritual, conscious kink, and the connection between nature and pleasure, with the full episode and exclusive photo set available on Patreon. If you're ready to take your pleasure and sexual health seriously, explore the Sexual Longevity Protocol, a private client blueprint for lifelong sexual pleasure, a self-paced course designed to support you long-term. And if you want to start gently, download the 30-day self-pleasure and body reconnection practices, a free daily guide to help you reconnect with your body and build pleasure one day at a time. If you would like to support the show, here are a few ways to do so. First, leave a review and follow the podcast wherever you're listening. This helps more people discover these conversations around sexual health, intimacy, and pleasure. I invite you to join me on Patreon for just $9 a month for ad-free episodes, early releases, and exclusive content, or subscribe to my paid Substack newsletter for more education, updates, and deeper insights. Lastly, you can join the Please Me Health Collective on SDC.com, a premier platform for the ethically non-monogamous community, including swingers, polyfolks, and more. Using code 37340 for a free trial membership and access to my free monthly webinars for members only. Follow me on Instagram at Please Me by Eve Creations for more. Please Me is for mature audiences, so sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me.
And I think a lot of it is that the rope it obviously restrains us in some way. So in our daily lives, we're often so busy, go, so much to do, so many things on our to-do list. But then when we're bound in rope, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing else for you to do. You just get pulled into the present moment. And also you get kind of pulled into your body and you're more confronted with just yourself, and you're really feeling how the rope is hugging you and kind of offering you this container, and it shows you very clearly, like, these are the boundaries, this is where I'm holding you.
Ladies, let's get personal for a minute. What does your vaginal health routine look like? Because as we mature, our intimate self-care needs an upgrade. If hormone shifts have you feeling dry, less sensitive, or just not quite like yourself, I've got a simple 3-step protocol I'm loving. Every morning I use my lady pump to increase blood flow and wake up the lady bits. And yes, it comes with 3 attachments for all the sensations. Then I apply Shamelessly Aroused by Shameless Care, formulated with sildenafil, the active ingredient used in Viagra, to support stronger arousal, better lubrication, and more responsive orgasms. Pair that with a daily self-love ritual, and you've got a powerful daytime combo. At night, I use Parlor Game's estrogen and progesterone creams to support healthy hormone levels and resilient vaginal tissue. Fewer oops moments when I sneeze, and way more confidence when intimacy calls. Dryness, decreased sensitivity, frequent UTIs, incontinence, low blood flow? These 3 upgrades can be a total game changer, because intimate health isn't indulgent, it's essential. And trust me, you'll feel the difference.
Focus Features and Blumhouse present Obsession.
When I have a crush on a guy, no one knows.
Be careful
I wish Nikki loved me more than anyone in the entire world.
who you wish for. Obsession is 96% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
I love you so much.
It's blood-soaked nightmare fuel.
What kind of spells you put on her?
You have been warned. Obsession. Rated R. Under 17. Animated without parent. Only in theaters May 15th. With special engagements in Dolby.
Girl, winter is so last season. And now spring's got you looking at pictures of tank tops with hungry eyes. Your algorithm is feeding you cutoffs. You're thirsty for the sun on your shoulders. that perfect hang on the patio sundress, those sandals you can wear all day and all night. And you've had enough of shopping from your couch. Done hoping it looks anything like the picture when you tear open that envelope? It's time for a little in-person spring treat. It's time for a trip to Ross. Work your magic.
Stitch Fix. Stop shopping, get styled.
A+ on the outfit, Miss Turner. You are about to slay parent-teacher conferences.
Oh, these? Just the most perfect fitting jeans my stylist sent me.
Oh, hello, you, who didn't set one foot in a mall and still looks amazing.
Just share your size, style, and budget, and your stylist sends personalized looks right to your door. Stitch Fix. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
To my stylist.
This look is dedicated to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Please Me, the podcast that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health by turning the sheets into our classroom. Today, I am so excited to introduce to you Luna Rose. She is a ritual artist, a kink guide, and an herbalist. And through her business, Wild Pleasure Sanctuary, she weaves together the worlds of intimacy, Eco-Sensuality, BDSM, and ceremony using rope and plants to connect us deeper to pleasure, art, and self-exploration. She is a podcast virgin, and so today I am lucky to be taking her virginity. And I can't wait to get to the role play because it's going to be really hot too. So with all that being said, welcome, Luna. How are you today?
Hi, Eve. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on your podcast. I'm doing really well today. How are you?
Amazing, amazing. I'm so happy to be finally talking to you. We have been communicating via Instagram, and I'm not going to lie, I Instagram stalked you because I looked at your content and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is so original and so different from what I see in a lot of the kink spaces. It's so delicate and beautiful and really artistic. I would love for you to tell me how you developed this niche, this kink niche, and how it developed over time.
Yes, it's definitely been a long time coming, and I feel like now I'm just pulling together all the threads that I've been following and exploring for the past decade or so. I would say I've always had a connection with nature. That's something that I grew up with. My dad would always take me to the forest, and he loved being in nature. So that connection with nature was fostered within me from a young age on. And I've also always been really fascinated with sexuality and intimacy from an early age on. And then I started studying herbal medicine maybe, I think it was around 2017. And that opened up so many ways of really being in intentional connection with the plants. And I studied plant spirit medicine as well, which I think a lot of times when people hear plant spirit medicine, their mind might go to psychedelics, but we were much more focused on just being in spiritual, emotional, energetic connection with any kind of plant, like rose or cedar or lavender or rosemary. And then I was already exploring kink and intimacy very intentionally for a while. And then I learned about this term eco-sensuality, which is really being in sensual connection with nature, with the elements, with plants. And when I came across that concept, that's really when I felt like I was coming home. And my connection with the plants just became so much richer and much more embodied, like really feeling the plants on my skin and on my body in these different ways and really igniting our senses. And that's kind of where I've landed right now.
I love it so much. And I love that word, eco-sensuality, which I have never heard before, to be honest. But, you know, everyone can think about like the rose petals, right, that people strew all over the bed and everywhere to create romance. And so, you know, that is like such a tiny little idea, right? It can be so much more rich and beautiful. And the way that you're using it with rope and with Shibari practice, I would love to know your introduction into Shibari and what made you sort of tie the two together, because it's almost as if your clients become like a human vase or like a vessel for for like this beautiful expression. And not only, I mean, I think that Shibari in and of itself can be really beautiful. The way that, you know, you can tie a person, it can actually be really quite beautiful in and of itself. But when you add the flowers and the herbs and all of that, it becomes like a masterpiece. Do you want to just talk about your introduction into Shibari and how this all sort of came together?
Absolutely, yes. So I think I started exploring Shibari maybe 2.5 years ago. And honestly, it was a curiosity that I had for much longer. And I remember years ago, I was dating somebody and I asked him if he would maybe tie me up. And I actually went and got some rope. Not the good Shibari kind of rope. I just went to the hardware store and got some random rope, which I later found out is not the right kind of rope. It doesn't work. But I just had this longing and I didn't really know where to start. And with that partner, it never ended up happening. And then I had another partner and brought it up. And also he wasn't really into it. So I'd had that longing for quite some time. And then it really started when I was about to do a boudoir shoot with a photographer friend of mine. And I told her that I had this vision of me, not just in lingerie, posing sexy, but I wanted to have some photos of me tied up. And I had this idea of having my arms tied behind my back in a strappado position, for those who know what that means. And I asked her if we can make it happen. And she said yes. She actually had a friend who is already quite skilled in Shibari, and she suggested we could get him to come and tie me for the photo shoot. And we reached out to him. He was very open to it. And he actually invited me to come do a session before the photo shoot so that we would already get to know each other in that space a little bit. And that was absolutely mind-blowing, because I remember I just had that vision of the photo that I wanted. And then when I was in the actual experience of being tied, it was so much more than just the visual or that feeling of being restrained. And I recall how we had a consent conversation before we even started tying, and that was still quite new to me. And I didn't even quite know how to share what my desires were or what my boundaries were. And he was just really lovely and gracious in the way that he introduced this to me. And when he started tying me, I loved just the sensuality of the experience, where, you know, I would feel the rope running over my skin, and he would move my hair out of the way gently, and he would offer some sensual and grounding touch as part of the whole experience. And I just felt so cared for, and I felt that I could really let go and surrender. And it was very meditative and peaceful and beautiful, and such a beautiful way of connecting, also in a way that wasn't necessarily erotic or sexual, which we had agreed upon before that that's not the space we wanted to play in, but sensual, just like a platonic sensual connection. That's how it all started.
That's all how it all started, and here you are today. And I love that story because I don't often think about rope as being a very sensual thing, and it's probably because I personally have never been tied before, because the idea of it scares me. Just being bound and not being able to move is a very scary thing, and I don't know that I have trust for anybody at this point in my life. That I would trust to do that to me, to be honest. And so I think that that's something to really consider if that's something that you're interested in, because you do have to have that trust in the other person. And so that's why for me, it's a scary thing, but I do find such beauty in it. And so I was thinking about, our conversation this morning and how, herbs tie into what you do. And I drew myself a bath this morning. I think I was just like getting into the meditative spirit of the conversation we were going to have. And I did a bath, and I had another guest on the show that talked about moon baths. And it was a book that she had read. And the book basically gives you different recipes for different baths to take at different phases of the moon. And part of the things that you put into the bath water is herbs. So you make teas and you make concoctions and you put herbs, and you also put like little oil, like herbal oils and sorts of things like that. And so this morning I like drew myself a bath and I like put my little oils in there, and I was just preparing and thinking to myself, if more people connected with nature in a very intentional way, it really is such a healing space. I would love to hear your take on, and we're going to talk a little bit about neurodiversity in a little while, but just your take on the idea that, plants can heal, right? They can be healing. And of course, herbs can be healing, but just like, your take on that, because obviously food is medicine, right? And so what we put in our bodies, is so essential to keep us healthy, but just using them in a different way besides just ingesting them, right?
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I love that question. I love talking about plants, and they've just become part of my day-to-day life. I don't even think about it anymore because it's just so normal for me now. And I would say the way I use plants in my kink practice is actually 4 different ways.
Okay.
So one way is, like I was already talking about a little bit, the eco-sensual connection. So in a session, that might look like me bringing in some fresh plants. For example, some fresh rosemary. It's one of my favorite plants, and so far every person I've used rosemary with has loved it. So I might just gently start brushing their face and their skin with the rosemary, and then they get to smell the beautiful, enticing, invigorating scent of this plant. And it's a plant that they might know already, so there's that familiarity, which can be really lovely. And then something like rosemary can also be used for gentle flogging, for example.
Yes, because it does have like a switch almost stem.
Yeah, so if you just harvest bigger pieces and maybe a few of those, then you can make a little natural rosemary flogger.
I love this idea. Okay, keep going.
Plants like rose, for example, I mean, we love the way rose looks. So it's already a visual, pleasure. And then the smell is beautiful. I also like using the flower for a soft, gentle caressing. And then roses also have the thorns.
I was just thinking that.
If someone wants a little bit more edgy exploration, I might use the thorns. So that's, I would say, is the kind of eco-sensual way of using plants. Then I've also been getting more into making art with plants, and I have this beautiful collaboration with a photographer that is called Botanical Rope Ritual, that is primarily focused on getting tied and then getting adorned with plants and flowers and really making the person into living embodied art. And everyone that I've adorned in this way so far has just felt so beautiful. And it's actually beautiful because when I do that, like, I will tie the person, I will adorn them, and then I see how beautiful they are, but they might not see themselves yet. So I love actually bringing in a mirror and holding it in front of them so that they can see just how beautiful they are. And I can always feel a significant shift when they're like, whoa, this is me adorned with plants, with flowers from nature. And I think it brings us more into this belonging to nature as well. So that's another way, the aesthetic art piece. And then, like I mentioned before, I have studied herbal medicine, so I actually do have a diploma in Western herbal medicine. The fancy term for that is phytotherapy, which phyto is Greek for plant, so plant therapy. So my background is knowing how to use plants medicinally, and I've learned a lot about harvesting and medicine making and how different constituents in plants can help with different ailments. Different medicine preparations like tinctures, teas, like you were saying, bath, a very beautiful and common way of using herbs medicinally, just eating plants like food medicine, and then also sensual products like sprays or beautiful massage oils or just very tasty pleasure elixirs. So that's the way that I use the herbal medicine in my sessions. I might feed you some delicious rose elixir, for example, to bring in that beautiful rose medicine. And then, as I've also mentioned, the plant spirit connection is something that is very important for me as well. So really honoring the plants as living sentient beings with a spirit that we can connect to and honor. And I will often, before I harvest a plant, I will go and make an offering to that plant and ask if I can even harvest it. And sometimes they don't want to be harvested, but often they do if they're being met in this respectful way. And I've made altars dedicated to a plant that I'm working with. And in a session, I will always put plants in some shape or form on the altar as well.
This is very, very interesting and so intricate. I mean, so many different ways that you can incorporate plants into what you're doing, obviously for the healing properties, but also for all of the kinky ways that you can introduce plants. And I love the idea of the rosemary and smelling, right? And by the way, she has a quiz on her website, and I know she's changing her website soon. I hope you don't take it away because I took the quiz. I took the quiz earlier today, and what was my plant? Schisandra was the plant that it came up with. That was my erotic herbal ally. And I love that, that you actually pair the person after taking the quiz with an actual plant, right? And so I love the idea of this plant and how you were in, one of the questions was about smell. And I can't exactly remember the question, but like, what's the first thing that attracts you to somebody? And for me, I think I said it was the smell of the person, their pheromones, their cologne, or their perfume. And yeah, absolutely. And so smell is so essential when it comes to connecting with your sensuality and really all of the different senses, right? But in particular with plants, smell is a big one. And rosemary is such a powerful, delicious smelling, plant. And so I love the idea of using it to, delicately touch the body in a very sensual way, and then also creating a switch with it. And also being able to use it as sort of like a little whip, which I think is genius. If you know rosemary and you know that the plant, it has like these tiny little leaves, but the stem is kind of like tough, right? It's a kind of a tough stem. I can see how that could translate very well to doing, using it in that way. So genius. I love, your idea. I don't think I know of anyone else doing anything like this.
It is kind of a specific niche for sure. I do know people who work with plants and kink in some ways, but maybe not quite in this way, like I was saying, with these 4 different ways that I incorporate plants. But there are traditions of using plants physically. For example, I don't know if you've ever heard about nettle flogging.
I have not, but
so
tell me about nettle flogging, because nettles sound like spikes, like thorns.
Yeah,
right?
So we probably all know stinging nettles. They will sting when we touch them. that actually can be of benefit for those suffering from arthritic pain or rheumatism. So there is this old tradition of taking, like, harvesting fresh nettles and then brushing and like thrashing the skin with the nettles, and that acts as a counter irritant, which then can help relieve the inflammation. So that is just a traditional herbal medicine practice, but it has been adapted by some people in the kink community. And I've definitely seen people on FetLife talk about botany play and nettle flogging. There are also people who actually like to put stinging nettles on their genitalia and play with that. So it is a specific niche that some people do explore.
Okay, and it says, and you said that when the nettle actually pricks you, it causes a stinging sensation. So the nettle itself has some sort of like chemical or something in it that will cause that reaction in your skin.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. I love this. And, you know, the more I learn about kink, the more my list grows of things I want to try, you know? And it's interesting because, like, sometimes the things that I think are going to be ones that I'm absolutely, like, so interested in and into, I am not interested in at all. And then the other way around, you know, I might take a class and go, oh, this is not something that I'm truly interested in, but I'm just curious to hear about it. And suddenly, like, my mind is blown, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really interesting. And this sounds like a really exciting thing to try. So I love just talking about different kinks and just bringing them to the masses, right? Because, you know, unfortunately, you know, or fortunately, I should say, 45% of Americans consider themselves kinky, right? And so it's a big percentage, but I really do feel like, and it's funny because I had another guest on the show and I mentioned that statistic and she said, that's because the other 55% haven't figured out what their kink is. And I kind of agree with her because as you learn more about different kinks, you start to create this list of things you want to try, right? And at least I do. I don't know. Ladies, whether you are just starting your menopause journey or well into it and have questions about hormone replacement therapy, you're not alone. Many women experience vaginal dryness, decreased sensitivity, and urinary incontinence, like leaking when you sneeze, laugh, or exercise. These symptoms can be frustrating and limiting, but they are also very treatable. I experienced this myself and decided to try Parlor Game's topical estrogen and progesterone creams. Within 1 month of consistent use, my incontinence completely resolved. Topical estrogen helps restore tissue health, improve sensitivity, and support bladder control, while topical progesterone supports hormonal balance. If you are ready to stop suffering in silence, check the show notes for the link to Silky Peach, the topical estrogen cream, and Vibrant Third, the topical progesterone cream. I feel relieved and confident again, and I know you can too. If you've ever wished sex could feel more connected, more intense, or honestly just more fun, you need to check out Shameless Care. They're a telemedicine company built entirely around sexual health, real doctors, real prescriptions, and products that actually work. Like Shameless Chemistry, their oxytocin plus tadalafil blend that deepens connection and boosts arousal. Or Shamelessly Aroused, a topical cream with the active ingredient found in men's ED medication, increasing blood flow exactly where it counts. Every order includes a short video introduction from your doctor, transparent pricing, and no subscriptions ever. Just real, sex-positive healthcare that delivers results. Because you're a Please Me listener, you can use coupon code PLEASEME for $15 off your order of any product on the Shameless Care website. Use the code PLEASEME, that's PLEASEME, at checkout to claim your $15 off. Again, that's shamelesscare.com, code PLEASEME. Because great sex shouldn't be complicated. It should be shameless. This episode is sponsored by Shameless Care.
This episode is brought to you by Palmolive. Family time isn't just the big moments. It's weeknight dinners, sitting around the table, everyone talking all at once. So when the plates are empty and the sink is full, use Palmolive Ultra. Palmolive's most powerful formula removes up to 99.9% of grease, leaving your dishes sparkling clean. And the new convenient pump makes cleaning even easier, so you can spend less time tackling dishes and more time together. Shop now at palmolive.com.
With Plan B emergency contraception, we're in control of our future. It's backup birth control you take after unprotected sex that helps prevent pregnancy before it starts. It works by temporarily delaying ovulation, and it won't impact your future fertility. Plan B is available in all 50 U.S. states at all major retailers near you, with no ID, prescription, or age requirement needed. Together, we've got this. Follow Plan B on Insta at Plan B One Step to learn more. Use as directed.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Yes, and it's funny you bring that up, because for me, I don't necessarily think about those things that I do as kink anymore. For me, they're just, it's just normal. Sometimes I forget that not everyone will, engage with rope play or spanking or flogging or power dynamics in those ways. And I do agree it's really beautiful to bring, this concept of eco-kink or using plants for kink out to the broader, world. And it's what I love about it too, is that it's so accessible. You don't have to invest in any expensive tools. You can just go out into nature and let the plants inspire you, and you can just start experimenting with it and just see what you're drawn to. So I think it's very accessible, and that's really beautiful.
I agree. It is accessible. You don't have to go out to the store and buy anything. You can just go out into your yard and start picking things. And I have to say that I am a plant whore, okay? I'm not going to lie. I love buying plants. And I have made myself, like now when I go to the store, I have to tell myself, you are not allowed to buy any plants. Because I can buy and buy and buy, and it's like it becomes an extreme thing. But you can go out to your yard, and sometimes I'll go out there and I'll have like a few planters that I want to fill, and I'll just start looking around and seeing what plants are wanting to be in my containers, and bringing them into the home. And so I would love for you to expand a little bit on how you connect with the plants themselves, because I think that that's something that is not necessarily something that a lot of people do. We don't necessarily go to a plant and say, "Can I harvest you?" Right? Most people don't do that, but I do feel like we should be considering the life force within that plant, and I just think it's a beautiful practice. And I know that many native civilizations and cultures do that and give respect to, say, the animal that they're going to kill for their dinner, or the plants that they're using for their meal. So I would love for you to kind of jump into that a little bit and kind of describe how you do that. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation so far. For the full episode, over an hour long, join me on Patreon. On Patreon, you'll get the entire episode of this kink series, including all the insights and intimate conversations we can't include in the free version. For just $9 a month, you'll also receive exclusive content, including photos and behind-the-scenes material from the dominatrixes and other kink experts. Don't miss this BDSM and kink exploration. Join today and take your curiosity to the next level. And don't forget to download the free 30-day self-pleasure and body reconnection practices today. See show notes for the link.
Are you looking for a sexy date? Look no further than SDC.com. SDC.com is the premier ethically non-monogamous website that is worldwide. It also hosts a wealth of information on sexuality and sexual health, and I host a free live webinar monthly on the site. You can use code 37340 for a free trial membership on me, and be sure to reach out on the site and say hello.
I want to personally invite you to join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, bonus episodes, and early releases. Already there is a lot of bonus content on there with many webinars that I've done in the past and a show that I've never released to the public before. My show is completely self-funded, and when you are able to support me in this way, I'm able to spread my message of body positivity, self-love, and women's empowerment, and empowerment in general around sexuality around the globe. And so with that being said, I appreciate everyone who has already joined Patreon. And if you've thought about joining, now's your nudge to do so.